Righty. Okay. I cannot see the little screen at all. Do you know what? I think this shirt has to come off. Hello, this is Self-Talk Body Soul channel. I'm planning to do a series of videos. I'm planning to do a series. Sorry, my accent is not going to help me here. A series of videos, is that right? On relationships. Today I want to specifically talk about the relationship between trauma and... Oh wow! Is that a kite? I think that was a kite. Cool. A bird. It's whistling. It's amazing. I don't know if you can hear it. The relationship between trauma and relationships. You know, when you have had either trauma within past relationships or you had developmental trauma within your family as a child, and then how that gets transferred into your adult relationships, and how these two things relate to anger. Let's start from the beginning. One of the most important skills to gain when you enter any relationships, whether it be with a romantic partner, a business partner, a child, or anything else, friends, one of the most important skills when it comes to emotional maturity is to learn how to feel your anger. And this is the part where I expand on what I mean. Anger and boundaries come from the same place, as well as self-expression and your authenticity. There's a lot of people, I think, get confused with what boundaries actually are. You know, they think boundaries are walls, but that is a shadow aspect of having boundaries. In a healthy state, hello my love, my doggy. I don't know if you can see him. Hello my love. Hello love. Are you trying to get on the... No, what are you doing? You can't get on the table. Excuse me. Get away. This is very immature and impolite and just unheard of, to be honest. Get off. Leo, come on, go away. This is unbelievable. No! Don't you dare lie down here. Go. Good boy. What the heck? That was weird. He's never done that before. Anyway, good boy. You just wanted to be in the camera? Yeah. Okay, back to the topic. What was I even saying? Yeah, so walls do not equal boundaries, okay? Walls is what we create when our boundaries are not being respected. But boundaries in themselves is simply who you are. It's where you end and the world around you starts, essentially. So to really conceptualize that, just think of your skin. The skin is the boundary of your body, okay? And in the same way, we also have emotional boundaries. And you can, if that helps you to visualize this, you can literally visualize another body within or outside of your physical body, like an aura almost, an energetic body, and that is your emotional body, and that also has boundaries. But in other terms, the way you can think about it is quite literally things that you like, things that you don't like, things that you value, things that are important to you, things that, you know, are your standards, things that you will not accept in your life. Those are all your boundaries. Oh, it's getting cold now again. Oh, what is this weather? Yeah, so I hope that kind of paints a clear picture of what boundaries really are. It is really who you are. The reason, number one, why most people struggle with understanding where their boundaries are, and hence struggle with protecting their own boundaries and hence end up getting traumatized or re-traumatized, end up in negative, toxic relationships around toxic people, in toxic work environments. These are all symptoms and signs that you're not protecting your boundaries. The reason why is because we don't really know who we are, right? It's kind of a difficult question for a lot of people to answer. And at the beginning of my spiritual journey, for a long time, you know, at least 3 years of kind of when I started to become aware that I don't actually know who I am, for at least 3 years, I still had no clue. I had no solid ground under my feet to start to formulate who I was. The reason why most people don't understand who they are is because from very early childhood, our boundaries are being crossed. What happens naturally when our boundaries get crossed? Naturally, we get angry, because that is the primary function of anger, is to protect ourselves. Anger is a threat response. Anger is a response of the nervous system to say that something in our environment is threatening our survival, our safety, our connection, whatever it might be. What also happens when we're children, to most of us, unfortunately, is our parents, our caregivers, teachers suppress our anger by saying things like, don't get angry, go stand in that corner, you're being naughty, you know, don't you dare speak to me like that, stop shouting, stop throwing tantrums, ignoring our tantrums. That is actually a very painful experience for children, when you just pretend like they're not even there, whilst they're screaming, crying with anger and sadness and a sense of injustice. Or otherwise humiliating us when we feel angry. All of these childhood experiences create a belief in pretty much, I don't know, I haven't met a human being who naturally feels like they can just healthily feel their anger and express it. Everyone I meet who knows how to do it had to learn it as an adult. The way it then adapts into our adulthood is, as I described before, we lose a sense of who we are, how other people can treat us and how they can't treat us, what feels good and what doesn't feel good, what doesn't feel aligned, what feels threatening, in fact, can also be very confusing, right? That is why so many people end up in abusive relationships, because their psyche has adapted to allow violence, mistreatment, and toxicity into their environment, right? But also these people struggle with mental health problems, because your natural systems are still going to be trying to protect you, but there will be other things trying to keep all those protective systems down, right? So this is how it works. I think I've explained it in another video already, but just to kind of remind everyone who's watching, there's a threat, anger needs to come out, okay? Let's say when your parent enters your room without knocking, you know, just feels like they're just allowed to come into your room. What they're saying with that is that your space is my space. You don't have your space. There's no such thing as your boundary of your space. There is only our space. So they enter your room and you feel anger. But you have learned already throughout your early childhood that when you get angry, that's also dangerous, because you get humiliated, punished, shouted at for doing so. So what happens is the anger wants to come out, and then there is a protective structure over that then says, no, that's too dangerous. That's when we start to have symptoms of mental health disorders, and also skin disorders like cystic acne and eczema, digestive disorders. These are all, like, skin disorders is all about the boundary, right? And so is digestion as well. Digestion is a lot more about a lot more things than that as well, but when there is problems with the lining of the intestines, is the problem with the boundary again. So I, from early childhood, had developed Crohn's disease, which is an inflammation of the lining of the intestine, because I had no boundaries. Physically, we will start to manifest these symptoms of repressed anger. Inflammation in general in the body is also to do with anger. So this is how this cycle starts and perpetuates itself. So how do we come out of this cycle? Is we start to work with the resistance that keeps your anger turning inward. The reason I don't say, oh, you just need to release your anger, is because currently, if you're not doing it, it is because your nervous system deems that to be unsafe. When you don't have enough capacity, enough resource inside of yourself to hold the immensity of the anger that you have been suppressing all these years, your nervous system is going to go into shutdown. And even if you manage to release a huge bunch of this stored energy and it makes you feel relieved, you still have no idea how to actually practically take that into your real life, right? Like, okay, I've released all this anger, I've screamed into the pillow, but then I go home and my partner still pisses me off and I still can't do anything about it. So first thing we need to do is make sure that your nervous system knows that it is safe to feel that anger, and then little by little feeling it. Yeah, I think that should be a little bit better at least. When you start to feel into your anger and you start to feel like it is safe to have it in your body, in your experience, this immense energy that you sometimes feel like it'll just destroy me if I feel it all. And I know that feeling, trust me, I know that feeling. That's why you need to do it bit by bit until you can withhold more of it. The reason it's so important, and I'm telling you this from my own personal experience and experience of being a somatic therapist and working with other people with this. Most people, when they feel like they've got a problem, let's say they've got a problem of, I don't know who I am, I don't know what I want, I don't know how to set boundaries. Most people go straight like attacking the actual issue. But when it comes to you and what makes you you, that knowledge is already inside of you. And it is only a question of why are you not being able to access that? Okay? It's not something that you're supposed to be finding outside of yourself. How can you find outside of yourself? By reading books by other people, watching videos, going somewhere. How can you find out you, who you are, doing that? You can't. But what you can do is remove the blockages that stop you from simply tapping into that knowledge. Because when I say knowledge, it's not a cognitive knowledge, it's not intelligence of the mind. It's the knowledge and wisdom of the body. I think there's a bug on the lens. Hopefully you can't see it. And this is why this is so imperative, this work going into the suppressed emotions, whether it be anger or grief or shame or guilt or judgment, disgust, or positive emotions as well. Like, so much of them are also suppressed because they have not been safe to feel in your life. Whatever it might be, most people, the reason where they're struggling and they're stuck in their problems within their relationships, they struggle with conflict whatever it is, they're struggling and they feel like they're stuck and they can't get out of that stuck loop because they're trying to swim against the current. When all they need to do is remove the rocks and the dirt and the weed out of the stream and then flow with the stream. Go with the flow. That's a lot easier. That's a lot easier. And that's how life should feel. But the mind gets in the way. Because it's scared to feel. And that's totally normal. So if you have been struggling with conflict, with feeling like, you know, there is a lack of intimacy in your life, in your relationship, feeling like there's a blockage, but you just don't know what it is. You maybe sometimes you just can't even put a finger on what it is, but you just feel stuck, and you feel maybe an underlying like agitation with your partner, sort of like frustration. But again, you can't quite put your finger on it. You just feel this like internal turmoil. Allow the idea of turning towards the anger and all that comes with it, the fear of feeling the anger, the shame of feeling the anger. Just face towards that just a little bit and just see if there's anything there that needs addressing. If you need support, as always, I'm here to do that for you. My website is going to be in the description below. I have worked through a lot of these layers already myself. I can hold a lot of that anger, and if it's helpful, I will even kind of give a very recent example of how that has changed in my life. Specifically an example with my mother. My mother was a little bit of an overbearer in my life, and when I was a teenager, I had to take on quite a lot of responsibility that I didn't ask for, that my mother didn't really acknowledge that it was too much for me. There was a lot of boundary, what's the word? Boundary rupture in my life with my mother. Very horrible conversations, shouting, arguments, fights. So it was quite a painful relationship throughout my life with mother. Also some abandonment at an early age. So that it wasn't an easy ride, and I've always struggled to feel close with my mother. And especially since being a teenager, the predominant emotion I have felt towards my mother was rage. And in recent years, it was all right. You know, we could maintain an okay relationship, but the second she would even mildly cross any of my boundaries, the switch would just flip in me, and I would feel this huge rage come up. And unfortunately, sometimes I would just not be able to contain it. It was way beyond my capacity to contain. And about 8 months ago, you know, it was so bad that, like, you know, she literally just left the house, and she's never done that before. And I was literally shaking, like my whole body was shaking from stress of having had expressed all that rage towards her. And I was just shaking for like half an hour, and I was cold, like my body just went into like a deep freeze response after such a fight response. And a few days ago, she mildly crossed my boundary again, and I felt rage. I felt rage coming up, but I sat with it. I actually was able to sit with it and contain it and allow it to be. And it was terrifying. I started to feel dizzy, like physically dizzy, and like I was losing like strength almost in my body, like it was so heavy. And I sat with it, and about an hour after her message that triggered that in me, I was able to respond to her and healthily place a boundary, reaffirm it. And I think that was the first time in my life that I was able to do that. And then she responded, and she responded well, because the way I came to her with my request was healthy, and, you know, it wasn't rude, it wasn't anything like that, you know, it was very healthy, which I was very shocked that I was able to do that. And then she responded, and all of my emotions just calm. Whereas 8 months ago, it took me like 3 days just to recover from that stress of anger, and I was still not able to place a boundary with her then. So that just kind of shows, yeah, like 3 days of stress in my body and still not having a healthy boundary, versus an hour placing a boundary and actually feeling like she heard it. And wow, like that's a big achievement. And I can imagine that so many people maybe listening to this, watching this video, might resonate, you know, with my story before. And this is just like a message of hope that if you can start to open yourself up to the idea of working through the stored layers of trauma and suppression of emotions, gently being led and guided, facilitated into your own exploration of your inner world, you don't then need to figure out life anymore. It just happens in your best interests. And that's the beauty of doing this work. That you can go through life thinking like, how do I figure this out? And struggling so much, when all you need to do is work through the blockages, and then things just start flowing. And you just know what to do. You just know. And I really wish that for everyone, genuinely. I really wish that everyone could experience that, just to know what that feels like, so that you could have a guidance system. You could have a guiding light, you know, a North Star in a way. Like, okay, I know what that feels like, and that's what I want my life to be like, to be in that authentic place where I can just allow my emotions. I can experience them and I can act upon them, and it's really powerful. And this is such a different place for me compared to where I was even a year ago, let alone a few years ago. And I just cannot thank somatic work enough. Honestly, it's the only tool that over the last 5 years that I've been trying to heal myself, it's the only tool that actually helped. And I will just let my transformation speak for itself, really. And this is just one tiny part of my transformation as well. If you've got any questions, leave them in the comments down below. If you've got some thoughts or ideas or more questions in regards to relationships as a whole that you maybe want me to address in the next video, as I said, I will be making a series of these to talk more about relationships. The next one will probably be on conflict, specifically conflict resolution, and how to start having healthy conflict rather than disruptive rupture in your relationship. If you've got anything else that you want me to talk about, that you might be interested to hear my perspective on, please share that down below as well in the comments, or you can send me a message, direct message on Instagram if you would prefer that. The link is also in the description down below. And otherwise, I hope you found this video very helpful, inspiring, hopeful, maybe makes you feel hopeful. And thank you so much for being here. I'll see you in the next one. trained dog. He's a paid actor.